OnePlus fans, prepare to destroy your kicks with joy because the OnePlus 8T is here in this rather enormous frickin' box. I've been lucky enough to get my grubby mitts on it a whole week before the official launch, so that means unfortunately right now I don't know the official UK price or release date, but I will bung that information in the video description down below. But for now, let's whip the OnePlus 8T out of its box and take you on a full in-depth tour of the hardware and the software. And for more on the latest tech, please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! So this appears to be the slogan for the OnePlus 8T Ultra: stops at nothing, whatever that means. How do you actually... oh, there we go. Hello! That was a very friendly box. Okay, so first of all, as usual, OnePlus has really gone to town with the reviewer's guide. It's actually the size of a novel. Good bit of bedtime reading there. I'm hoping it's mostly pictures. There's the actual phone box, and it looks like they're sticking with the monolithic style packaging for the OnePlus 8T. And as usual, they very kindly included a couple of cases for the 8T as well, so we can check those out. And there you have it. Absolutely flipping enormous box for a phone, a book, and a couple of cases. Good stuff. So that was stage one, unboxing the box. Now I've got to actually unbox the smartphone. There she blows. Right, OnePlus indeed. So first up, of course, you get the obligatory invitation letter, complete with the usual funky OnePlus pokey pin device, of course. Let's see what Pete has to say this time. So he says, hello, the OnePlus 8T is proper good. In it, it's much better than them shitty Samsungs. Who likes those things? Only bedwetters and nonces, that's who. No, sadly he didn't say any of that, but if you want to read the actual invitation letter, just freeze frame here, I guess. You also get lots of boring guff like safety information, and a bunch of stickers to give to your kiddie winks. You get the actual OnePlus 8T, always handy. You get OnePlus's condom case bundled in there as well with decorative slogan. Although completely randomly, according to the press release info I've already read, you don't get this condom case if you live in America for whatever reason. Maybe you guys are less cack-handed and therefore less likely to drop the phone than us. You also get the fresh new and frickin' enormous Warp Charge 65 adapter. And last up, your obligatory gorgeous crimson red OnePlus USB cable. But enough of all that gumph, let's actually check out the OnePlus 8T. Now first up, it's worth mentioning that the OnePlus 8T is designed to basically replace the existing OnePlus 8 in the OnePlus smartphone lineup. That means it will be going on sale alongside the OnePlus 8 Pro, which has not been replaced with an 8T Pro. Now the OnePlus 8T has a serious heft to it at 188 grams. It's constructed from Gorilla Glass 5 front and back, so hopefully should prove nice and hardy, and it appears to be a layer of metal just sandwiched in between the two. You'll be able to pick up the 8T in two different colours. You've got the aquamarine green, which is kind of like the flagship colour, and this one here is a step down. This is the lunar silver. Not quite as sexy, and the specs are slightly different, which I will cover during the hardware tour. No real surprises here with OnePlus 8T design though. There's once again bugger all headphone jack action, but at the same time there's also no dedicated Google Assistant button, which is always a bonus. And of course, once more you get the usual alert slider positioned just here above the power button. So far though, first impressions, really liking that design. It's not a massive evolution over previous OnePluses. The major difference is of course the camera chassis has been shunted away in the corner there. But rather pleasingly, despite the glass materials, you've got this lovely matte finish, and it does seem to be very, very resistant indeed to greasy fingerprints. I reckon you could quite happily feast your way through a Whopper meal and then text your bestie and this thing would still be nice and pristine. Sadly, the actual screen is getting quite grubby, as you can see there, though it is actually covered with a screen protector just for a bit of extra hardiness, so that's always a bonus. Right, let's just get it all set up and then we can check out the rest of the phone. Looks like the SIM tray is stuck away right here on the bottom end. And what you get here is a dual SIM setup, as you can see there, one of these reversible SIM trays, but sadly, of course, as usual, no room for micro SD expandability. So with this silver model, you'll be stuck with the 128 gigs of onboard storage, but if you do get that aquamarine green one, which is proven really difficult for me to say, you get 256 gigs, so plenty of space. Before I forget, just have a quick try on of all of the cases as well, so you can see how it fits all snug into first up the condom case. I still see that lovely silver finish, and of course you've got the never settled branding, a nice little mottled design as well, very funky. And that'll happily protect the edges and the back end of the OnePlus 8T, and it's also raised up in the corners to help give the screen a bit of extra protection if it happens to face plant the floor, God forbid. So that looks like it'll more than do the job, but if you want to splash a bit of cash, you can also grab this Cyborg Cyan cover. This is a hard shell case, and it definitely adds a very different, very unique microchip style design to the OnePlus 8T, very funky. I do quite like the 3D style effect. I don't know if you can really make that out on the camera. Otherwise, Otherwise, you've got your more traditional cyan sandstone cover instead, and I'm not even going to tell you how many takes it took me to get cyan sandstone right. And before we actually crack on with the wonders of OxygenOS 11, I'm just going to briefly mention as well, there's no IP rating for the OnePlus 8T. Apparently it is splash proof, so it'll be absolutely fine in your traditional British downpour, but you definitely don't want to be going and taking it into the bath. Have it precariously balanced at the edge of the sink while you're doing your washing up, anything like that. Now, it's no massive shock that it's an in-display fingerprint sensor here on the OnePlus 8T. It's an optical scanner, so just exactly the same as the OnePlus 8, and touchwood so far seems nice and responsive, and that OnePlus 8 in-display scanner stayed nice and responsive and accurate over months and months of use, so fingers crossed we'll get the same from the 8T. And as usual, this is backed with a good bit of face recognition as well, so you can use that if your hands are a bit grubby or something like that. So let's just scan in my slightly tired looking face. Let's see if that actually works. Yep, super nippy as usual. Now the OnePlus 8T is especially intriguing because it's actually the first to launch with OxygenOS, the latest version of OnePlus's launcher, and in fact that is actually sat on top of Android 11, making this one of the very first smartphones to launch globally with the latest freshest version of Android straight out the box. And OnePlus fans will definitely notice a significant change to the general look and feel of OxygenOS with this version 11. I think it looks really neat and tidy. Definitely first impressions are good. As usual, you've got some strong customization options packed in here into OxygenOS. You can dive in here, you can change everything to do with the desktop. You can kill the apps tray if you want, the Google Discover feed, you can change up the icon pack. If you dive into home screen layout, as usual, you can change up the grid layout. And there's been a significant overhauling of the clock style on the hibernation screen as well, but I'll be going into that and loads of other great features in my full OxygenOS 11 tips and tricks guide, because there's a lot to cover, so stay tuned for that for all you need to know. Now, OnePlus smartphones always boast absolutely killer displays, and the OnePlus 8T certainly seems to be no different. It's a 6.55 inch nice and spacious AMOLED panel, so as you can see, they're pretty much a full view right down the front of the phone. You've got this tiny little selfie orifice buried away in the corner, nothing too intrusive. With the default display settings, it looks like a nice natural looking image, quite realistic looking colours, quite a neutral temperature overall. And as with the original OnePlus 8, you've got a just noticeable colour difference of just 0.3 apparently, which I'm sure is completely meaningless gibberish to most people, but what it basically means is, again, nice natural looking hues, very realistic, very accurate. And although it's a full HD plus resolution, not quad HD plus or anything like that, certainly the visuals look nice and pin sharp, despite the fact as well that it's a bit of a beast of a display. Certainly squishing your face up nice and close, everything remains nice and sharp. And if you jump on into the display settings here on the OnePlus 8T as well, go to advanced, you can completely calibrate that screen, get some more vivid, punchy images on the go. Go to advanced, set it to sRGB levels. Great news if you're editing photos on the fly, because that'll be really true to life colours. And in here is where you'll spy one of the big upgrades over the standard OnePlus 8. That's that refresh rate, which now is set to 120 Hz by default. You can bump it back down to the standard 60 Hz if you want to save some battery life. Sadly, there's no middle ground, there's no 90 Hz refresh rate option. And if you're really not a fan of that selfie cam orifice where you can completely hide it from view, and once you do so, you'll just basically get a big thick black bar across it like so. So I've gone and set the OnePlus 8T's display to a nice vivid setting, so those colours will come through nice and warm and punchy. Now definitely great if you're watching a bit of animation or something like that. Here on the OnePlus 8T, you also get a stereo speaker setup, so the earpiece will belt out media as well as that bottom firing speaker just there as well. So let's bump up the volume, see what we got. You've got to piddle about setting up external cameras in just the right spots and then slap on this enormous freaking great headset, which is then tethered. Okay, very impressive stuff. On that top volume, certainly plenty of power. I tried watching a bit of Winter Soldier, and those gun shots and explosions, certainly very loud in frick indeed. So no problems even if you're watching in a very noisy environment. The balance isn't 100% perfect, of course. As usual, the top speaker isn't quite pulling its weight compared with that bottom effort, but it's really not bad. And lots of great features tucked away in the audio settings as well, including you've got a good bit of Dolby Atmos action, which can just tweak the audio output depending on what you're up to. As you can see, you've got the likes of the live caption mode on there as well. And you've got all the features shoved in there that you would expect, including NFC for your contactless payments. You've got Wi-Fi 6 support, and you've got 5G connectivity as well, thanks to the X55 modem, which is stuffed in there alongside the Snapdragon 865. And yeah, it is the standard 865, not the 865 Plus, but you know what? Who really cares? Because it's still hot, you'll still get absolutely fantastic performance out of this thing. I've already run a bit of benchmarking, and those were the scores right there. So no bother at all if you want to be running any game on the Google Play Store on top detail levels. It'll absolutely storm through it all. And of course, you've got that game space feature back in action as well. Bit of an OxygenOS favorite, which just allows you to block notifications, basically super ramps up the performance as well, make sure that there's no other apps hogging resources in the background. It's pretty much all the stuff you would expect from a decent gaming smartphone mode. Again, I'll be going through this a lot more in depth in my OxygenOS 11 tips and tricks guide. Oh, and I did forget to mention briefly, if you buy the silver version of the OnePlus 8T, you get 8 gigs of RAM, which frankly is bloody plenty for a smartphone. But if you do get the aqua-marine green model of it, then you get an upgrade to 12 gigs of memory, which is frankly absolutely batshit. And in our pre-briefing, OnePlus told us that apparently you've got a dedicated vapor chamber stuffed inside the OnePlus 8T now, compared with the simple coolant pipes that you had in the original OnePlus 8. So hopefully the heat dissipation should be improved too, if you're going to be gaming over a long period, and especially if you're going to be gaming while the thing is plugged in. So that's performance. As I say, I'll be gaming like a mofo on this beast for my in-depth OnePlus 8T review, so stay tuned for that. As for the battery life, well, you get dual batteries in fact stuffed inside the OnePlus 8T with a total capacity of 4,500 milliamps, and that is what makes the Warp Charge 65 battery charging tech possible. It's the same sort of charging tech as you'll find in the likes of the Realme smartphones, the Oppo smartphones that have just emerged. So apparently you'll get a full charge from empty in the OnePlus 8T in just 39 minutes, and yes, you do get that Warp Charge 65 brick bundled in the box. You don't have to buy that separately, which is always good to see. According to OnePlus, this thing is equipped with a dozen thermal monitors just to help prevent the thing from overheating and therefore potentially setting your entire house on fire, which is always, again, a bit of a bonus. And apparently will also provide charge for other items such as tablets and even laptops, up to 45 watts. So when all this COVID crap is over and you bugger off in your hollybobs again, hopefully you won't have to pack a separate laptop charger. As you can see there in the battery settings, the optimized charging feature is back in action, which is great to see. That just helps to prevent the battery from overcharging. If you do leave the OnePlus 8T plugged in overnight, it'll just trickle charge until the time when you usually sort of get out of bed. Sadly though, no support for wireless charging. Wow, you'll have to get the Pro if you want that. Okay kiddies, it's getting late. Uncle Spurt is getting very tired and a bit cranky because he hasn't had his bedtime whiskey yet, so let's just finish up with a quick squint at the OnePlus 8T's rear camera tech. And what you have here is a fairly nifty quad lens setup, very similar to the original OnePlus 8. And if you are a OnePlus fan, you'll know exactly what to expect from the camera tech. As you can see there, you're immediately just straight into auto mode. Now, primary sensor is a 48 megapixel effort Sony IMX586, which of course has been in a buttload of smartphones, usually produces pretty nice looking results. And you've got OIS built in there as well, so hopefully should produce some nice looking photos. Color temperature seems a little bit cool in here, but it is very ambient conditions, so it is a little bit testing, shall we say. And as you can see there, the OnePlus 8T by default shoots at 12 megapixels using 4-in-1 pixel binning just to help brighten up a shot when needed, but you can switch up to the maximum 48 megapixel resolution with a quick tap like so. As for the other lenses, well, the secondary lens is a 16 megapixel ultra wide angle effort, which you can swap to with a quick tap down there, and that seems to offer very different color temperature results to the primary one. I'll be testing that one out. The last two lenses are a 5 megapixel macro lens, so you can shoot really up close pictures with that if that's your thing, I guess. And the last lens in the quad lens setup is a 2 megapixel monochrome lens, which just adds an extra bit of realistic black and white flare if you're using that filter. And of course you've got the usual selection of bonus camera modes slapped on top of there as well, the usual obligatory portrait mode, so you can shoot a nice bit of bokeh style action behind your subject. You've got your nightscape mode, which of course takes lots of different shots at different exposure levels, blends them all together, and then the final result, as you can see there, it's a bit more balanced, so as you can see, you've got a lot more background detail compared with just a standard auto mode. And if you want to take back control, then you've got the Pro mode as well, which adds all kinds of extra tools. As you can see there, you've got the level, you've got the histogram action up top, you can shoot in either JPEG or RAW format. Have a mess around with all kinds of different levels as well. You've got your slow motion, your panorama, all of that good stuff, and of course a good bit of video action. If we dive on into the camera settings, you'll see you'll be able to shoot up to 4K resolution video at either 30 or 60 frames per second, standard for OnePlus. That's great to see. And of course you've got that 21:9 aspect ratio cinematic setting as well, as popularized by the likes of Sony, to get a nice bit of home movie action with Creepy Carol. And for the OnePlus 8T, you've also got the fresh new video port portrait mode as well, which kind of similar to live bokeh video, whatever the frick it's called on the Samsung. Basically just keeps your subject sharp while blurring out everything behind them to really help them stand out. So I will be testing that and all the other features for my in-depth OnePlus 8T camera review. And last up, if we flip around to the 16 megapixel selfie cam here on the OnePlus 8T, you can see how absolutely bloody shattered I really am. Definitely time to wrap up this video and go to bed, I feel. So that right there, in a nutshell, is the OnePlus 8T. As I say, I'm getting this phone over a week before the official launch actually even happens. So I'm going to spend a lot of time with this smartphone using it as my full-time handset, ready for an in-depth review, which hopefully should be going live pretty much the same time as this unboxing. Also go check out my OxygenOS 11 tips and tricks guide for a better look at the software, and I'm hoping to do some comparisons with the latest and greatest handsets as well. But for now, I'm about ready to drop, so have a good one, everyone. Love you. Bye.